We just witnessed the scariest part about the New Orleans Saints. This is from a YouTuber named Swaggy. Okay, new channel, new react. I don't think we ever react to this young man. Swaggy, I can't even imagine how many TikTok videos he watches a day. Can't wait to see this. Can't wait to see what we're hearing here about the scariest part about the Saints offense. To me, the scariest part of the Saints offense is watching Pete Carmichael every single week. The Saints have been horrific offensively for the entire season besides the Colts game. So I think it's interesting when I hear people say, oh yeah, the Saints offense is exploding. The Saints offense is great. The Saints offense is this. Guys, don't forget, at one point we were averaging 14 points a game. We are on the upswing, and this game against the Bears, hopefully, will be more of that. But if we take a step backwards, we're right back to where we started. So hopefully the Colts game broke us through, and the Colts game is more of the true Saints offense. And not just a blip.
There's no question that the New Orleans Saints have a lot of work to do. They're 4-4. Of course, when you lose 4 of your last 6 games, usually you don't even have a chance to be in first place. Thankfully, this is a weak division.
Yep.
Alvin Kamara, ever since he's come back, he's just added a sort of explosiveness to this offense. And then, of course,
it's kind of funny because if you told me before the season, hey, you're going to get Alvin Kamara on pace to break the reception record, you're going to get a healthy Michael Thomas, you're going to get Rashid Shaheed having 150-yard receiving games. You're going to have, Chris Olave out there. Oh, and the Saints defense is going to be a top 10 defense in the NFL. If you told me all that, I'd be like, man, the Saints are probably undefeated. So it is kind of crazy that we have all of that happening, and we're 4-4.
You've got Rashid Shaheed being that deep threat. Taysom Hill is now starting to get more touches, whether that be as a receiver, as a quarterback, as a runner. He's looked fantastic, super physical player. There was a couple of plays in this game that I liked at him. That 44-yard pass to Shaheed. He also had that one where he followed his lineman down the left sideline. And of course, he had that touchdown. He had 2 touchdown runs, but specifically the first one that he made. Seems like Dennis Allen is starting to get a lot more comfortable here. Same with Derek Carr.
Oh, Dennis Allen being comfortable, not so sure about that. The Taysom thing, it's easy. It's an easy success algorithm. Taysom needs to have over, greater than, big crocodile mouth. That's how I learned greater than and less than. Crocodile mouth one way or crocodile mouth the other way. That's that South Mississippi education right there, baby. I remember, different conversation for a different day. But let me know in the comments below. Is that how you learned greater than and less than? Crocodile mouth one way or the other way? Because I have a sneaky feeling if you grew up in Louisiana or Mississippi, you probably are familiar with the crocodile mouth. But Taysom's algorithm is simple. He needs to have more than 40 yards rushing. That's it. When Taysom has more than 40 yards rushing in a game, the Saints are very successful. When he doesn't, the Saints are not successful. So if I'm Pistol Pete Carmichael, I'm thinking, how can I get Taysom involved to that extent? He doesn't need to have 150 yards rushing. He doesn't need to have 80 yards rushing, 40 yards receiving, 100 yards passing. He just needs to make sure that he's somewhere around 50 or 60 rushing yards.
And the Saints, they look explosive for the first time.
Is this Are You Afraid of the Dark?
I mean, of course, they've been putting up yards the past couple of games, but this one in particular, what they did in the second half was truly special because the past 3 weeks, the Saints have been a second half team. They've looked bad in the first half.
Second half team? Brother, my brother in Christ, the Saints have been a no-half team. They didn't put up any points in the second half against Green Bay. They put up, 6 points in the second half against Houston. How many points did they put up in the second half against Jackson? Like this team is a no-half. Besides the Indy game, this team has been a no-half offense. So it's a tale of two. It's a tale of 2 seasons, really. We had the first 7 games, which was despicable, vomit-inducing, chill bumps, goosebumps all over me watching the offense. Dome dogs everywhere. And now we have this pivotal moment where the offense finally explodes. And now we get to see, is this the true Saints offense? Is this what we can expect the rest of the season or not? So this is I understand that it's the Chicago Bears. I understand that it's Tyson Bagent. But this game is every game. Every game for the Saints now is absolutely must win, must perform. Because you fiddled around the first 7 games, and you dropped games to Houston, you dropped games to Green Bay, Jordan Love, are you kidding me? You got rolled by the Buccaneers at home. You dropped all those games. So now you can't drop any more games because Atlanta has just as easy of a schedule as you do. If the Saints win out besides Detroit, I believe we're an 11-win team. If we drop a couple games and all of a sudden we're a 9-win team, I don't think that's good enough to win the division. I think Atlanta will probably sneak us. And if you think about like who else we're losing to, if we lose, let's say we lose to Detroit, who else will we lose to? If we drop one to the Falcons, which you certainly don't want to do, if we drop one to the Falcons, all of a sudden you're a 10-win team, right? Is that good enough? Do you win the division with 10 wins? I don't know. It'll be close. So the Saints really do need every single game. And I mean, that's a lot of pressure on a team, but that's where we're at. So every single week, I don't care if we're facing Tyson Bagent or Josh Dobbs or Tyrod Taylor or Brett Ripien. I don't care who the opposing quarterback is. I don't care how easy the matchup is. We have to win every game that we're favored in. We cannot slip up against any team for the rest of the season.
Half, and then in the second half, they've looked good. But now they need to put together 4 good quarters of football, because coming into the season, what I said about the Saints is they're my biggest dark horse Super Bowl team in the NFL. And my dark horse pick for last season was the Eagles. And obviously the Saints are not the Eagles of last season, but I still think there's a lot of potential for this football team. And
I was in the same boat, honestly. I mean, because last year, if you look at the Eagles, right, if you predicted their success, what was it on the back of? It was on the back of Jalen Hurts. Like that's how they were going to be successful, was Jalen Hurts was going to be an MVP level player, and he was, and they were successful. Going into this season, I said the same thing, but about Derek Carr. I said if Derek Carr can take a step forward, and Derek Carr can be an MVP level player, not like win the MVP, but just be in the conversation, be a top 5-ish guy, the Saints could be very successful. That's not the case. All right, that has not happened. Derek Carr has been awful, but he has room to be better. So if Carr can be a little bit better and the Saints offense can be in that top 12-ish range, the Saints probably aren't a Super Bowl team, but they can compete for a spot in the NFC Championship game. That's where I think the Saints, if I had to put like a goal on the season, I would say minimum division. The minimum is division win, division championship, and 10 wins is the minimum threshold for success. The maximum threshold for success is to make it to the NFC title game. That's where I would put the goalposts on this season. If we win 9 games and win the division, not good enough. If we win, 10 games, but Atlanta wins the division, not good enough. So success, and a lot of people get that mixed up too, or a lot of people will say, I don't care how many games we win as long as we win the division. I think that's ridiculous. I think that's so short-sighted. So the Saints, 10, 11 wins, division title, and host a playoff game, win the playoff game. That's the goals. Those are our goals for the rest of the season.
And I'm not the type of person to tell you guys, look, they beat the Colts. They didn't look pretty. They didn't play 4 good quarters. There's still issues here. Pump the brakes a little bit. Although, in a sense, I do agree with that, I still think it's important to appreciate the good things that you're doing just as much as it is to focus on the bad, because the Saints did a lot of good in this. Derek Carr played the best game of his Saints career. As I said, Taysom Hill, Rashid Shaheed, Alvin Kamara. Chris Olave is the one guy we're kind of still waiting for. I mean, 546 isn't bad by any means.
And this is the game.
Olave is a guy who was runner-up for Offensive Rookie of the Year. This is a guy that should be breaking out this season, and him and Carr clearly just don't have any chemistry. They're not able to get things going. I saw Carr, just went back and watched the game, and yes, I'm a Colts fan, so the fact that I did that, Saints fans drop a like for me because it was brutal. We lost. There was a play in this game, Carr just missed him wide open up the middle, and there's been a couple of plays, like every game, where Carr's missing a receiver. I mean, Derek Carr.
Yeah, that'll happen. And like the Olave thing, too, we don't need Olave to be Justin Jefferson. We don't need him to be the guy. We have plenty of weapons. We need the ball to be spread around. We looked amazing against Indianapolis, and Kamara had 5 catches, right? So we don't need Alvin to have 14 receptions, like some of the games this year. Arguably, we're worse when we do that. We're worse whenever we dump the ball to Kamara 15 times. We're worse when we just target Olave. When you have the weapons that we have, you need to spread the ball out. So Olave does not have to be a 10 reception, 170 yards, 3 touchdown kind of receiver. He doesn't need to be Tyreek Hill. He just needs to be good when called upon. He needs to just be a threat, be a weapon. That's it. Olave can be anyone on this team, can be very dynamic and end up with 6 catches for 75 yards because of how spread out the offense can be.
He's not a top 10 quarterback. He's top 15. I would say he's a pretty good player. There's a reason why the Saints gave him his money. But I do feel like Carr is only getting better. He was great in the fourth quarter last week against the Jags. And then in this game, he was really good all around. 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, Carr was
passes,
really,
took
really
one
good.
sack. Credit to the offensive line for both creating run lanes, but also for protecting Carr. They've allowed just 1 sack over the past 2 games each. So 1 against the Jags and 1 against the Colts. And the Saints, they put up a season high point total of 38. They also had 511 yards of offense against the Colts. They converted on half of their third down attempts and scored touchdowns on 3 of 4 trips.
The imagery in this video is absolutely insane. Like, some of it is the most HD, 5D, 1080p, whatever gameplay footage I've ever seen in my entire life. It is giving me motion sickness with how clear and good the quality is. Then all of a sudden I'm in some kind of haunted house with Rashid Shaheed doing karaoke and doing shuttle runs in a pitch black building with smoke and candles and all kinds of stuff. I don't know what the hell is going on. Well, 1 second I'm watching Taysom Hill run with one of those 7D cameras where his head doesn't move, and I'm about to throw up all over the place from the motion sickness. Next thing I know, I'm getting screamed at by Rashid Shaheed in Disney's Haunted Mansion. This is absolutely insane, the backdrop here.
To the red zone. This is the breakout performance on the offensive side that we've been waiting for all season long, and it just came at the perfect opportunity. The Saints, they put up over 400 yards for 3 straight games. And despite losing, like I said, 4 of the last 6 games, they still find themselves tied for first in the NFC South with the Atlanta Falcons. The Saints and Falcons don't meet until the end of November in Week 12. Between now and then, they each play the Vikings without Kirk Cousins. A couple of winnable games in there. For the Falcons, they've got the Cardinals. The Saints got the Bears. So it'll be interesting when these 2 teams meet.
Yeah, the schedule is super easy for both, right? So that's why I'm saying we can't slip up. We already slipped up. Before the season, I was saying, find me 5 losses. that was the whole thing, because I didn't think we could lose to the CJ Strouds. I didn't think we could lose to the Jordan Loves. I didn't think we could lose to Baker Mayfield, right? So in my mind, it was like, okay, we will slip up. You're not going to go undefeated, but find me 5 losses. Well, the Saints have already found 4, and then Detroit is probably a loss. So that's the 5, right? That is the 5 losses. So you cannot have an off game. You cannot lose to Josh Dobbs in Minnesota. You cannot lose to Daniel Jones and the Giants. You cannot lose to Brett Rypien or Matt Stafford and the Rams. Can't lose to these teams. We had a bunch of like security blanket type games where, okay, you can drop one here, you can drop one here, and we've used all of it. We're playing Sonic the Hedgehog with no lives, right? We cannot, and we have no rings. We can't slip up again,
because they'll probably either be tied or a game apart. And
what the
hopefully,
hell is this?
For the sake of the Saints, Desmond Ridder.
What the hell was that? What we just went? What in the world? We went from this footage to all of a sudden I was in a kitchen. I was watching Hell's Kitchen. I was watching an episode of Gordon Ramsay. What was that? Was that a roasted duck? How did we go from Taysom Hill running end arounds to I was in a trance watching like a orange glazed duck recipe.
Ends up coming back and being the starter because he was benched for
What
Taylor
is going
Heineke.
on?
I don't know.
What is happening? We're splicing. I can't even hear what the guy's saying. The guy's talking. The video is absolutely insane, and now I'm knee deep in a episode of Top Chef.
The full details I got on my notes right now that Of course, Ritter ended up being benched. I don't know if it was an injury or due to lack of
What?
play or lack of good play. I'm going to imagine that it was because he just
Who
wasn't
is this
playing
chef?
well. And Ritter has not played well this entire season. But like I said, Alvin Kamara, he's been on the past 2 thumbnails of my Saints videos. I drafted this guy in my money league. He has been
This is crazy.
exactly the Alvin Kamara that we were missing the past really 2 seasons, because from 2017 to I would say 2020, Kamara was getting a ton of receptions out of the backfield. He was the most dynamic player in football. And then all of a sudden, without Drew Brees, it went away. And now you can see Dennis Allen is starting to get this guy more involved. The offense.
You know, it's interesting. I was just having this conversation. If you look at Alvin Kamara's career, you look at Christian McCaffrey's career, they're the same player. Kamara has become underrated. Like he's had a couple down years. But go look at his numbers compared to Christian McCaffrey. You know what? Well, let's go ahead and do it right now. All right, so here's the rushing. So Kamara's played 93 games, McCaffrey 83. Attempts 1,200 to 1,200 basically. Rushing yards 5,400 to 5,300. Touchdowns 51 to 47. Their yards per carry 4.5, 4.6. For somebody who Christian McCaffrey is considered like, you know, an MVP level, best running back in the NFL, whatever. Very, very similar to Kamara. But James, the receiving, I hear you. Receptions, Alvin Kamara 406, McCaffrey 400. Receiving yards, Kamara 3,500, McCaffrey 3,300. Yards per reception 8.7, 8.4. Receiving touchdowns 22 to 19. Would you have guessed that? Receptions per game 5.1 to 6.1. Would you have guessed yards from scrimmage 8,200 to 7,400? Would you have guessed that Kamara has actually been the better receiver in his career? I don't know, guys. I mean, there's a lot of people who think McCaffrey is one of the best running backs in the NFL, has been for his entire career. Why isn't Kamara in that same conversation?
This is specifically Derek Carr trust him. Whenever Carr is in, I would say, a time of need, he's going to Kamara. And there's a lot of plays where he does just dump it down and doesn't really go for much. But there's also some plays, even in specifically against the Colts, but all season, where he's able to put the ball into AK-41's hands and he's able to make something happen. Of course, the first touchdown of the game for the Saints, we saw that. It was on that little, what would you call it? I don't know the name of it. It's a Texas route, I believe. So he runs a little bit of a Texas route. The middle linebacker, Shaq Leonard, ends up
I'm starving watching this video.
Help out
I'm starving
on the receiver
watching
to
this.
his right, and then Kamara just sneaks up the middle, makes a couple of tackles, gets in the end zone. Another play in this game I remember where Kamara just caught it and is able to get.
Is that the Chargers? What is this? Is this preseason? Is this preseason footage? He was describing a play against the Colts, and I'm watching the footage, and I realized it's the Chargers. I'm pretty sure this is a preseason footage. So we go from a 4-course meal with just gumbo and fried chicken and, you know, some catfish or something. We go from that to the Chargers preseason footage. We are on a roller coaster ride.
Is able to get to the sideline and make a play. So you want to get the ball into your playmakers' hands, and it's only a matter of time before Olave gets going. We've seen Shaheed, of course, be a deep threat. I mean, he just had like 3 catches for like 121 yards, and then Michael Thomas had a couple of nice catches. We're even seeing Taysom Hill make a difference. And the thing for Hill is he's had some good games, has some games where he's not really existed, but he is truly a big part of this offense, and it's good to see, of course. I mean, Juwan Johnson I liked a lot last season. I don't even know his status. I'm pretty sure I didn't see him.
All right, I got to put a bow on this video. So the Saints, okay. What in the world? So the Saints are a team with a lot of promise. They're a team with a lot of weapons. They're a team with a lot of potential. The question is the same that it's been the entire season. Can the Saints be consistent? And can this new look offense, and this new look because Derek Carr, all right, is a big part of it, can they find a way to get all the problems from earlier in the season, the communication issues, the scheme, the game plan, all that, can they get rid of all that? And can they put all that behind them and use this momentum from the Colts game moving forward? Can Pete Carmichael call a good game with a good game plan, get his receivers and get his weapons the ball, distribute all that? Can he do that week in, week out? Can Derek Carr be as efficient as he was against the Colts? Can we push the ball downfield? If we can, this offense can be a very scary offense. this offense can be really, really good. And if you look at just the weapons, before the season, I said, who would you rather have? Dak Prescott, Tony Pollard, CeeDee Lamb, and Brandon Cooks, or whoever else they got? Would you rather have that, or would you rather have who the Saints have? Alvin Kamara, Derek Carr, Chris Olave, Michael Thomas, Taysom Hill. Like, the Saints package, the weapons, the offensive package that we have, pretty similar to the best teams in the NFL, and certainly the best teams in the NFC. So the Saints, the whole thing it's never been about players. It's never been about the roster. It's never been about any of that. It's all about, can they put it together for 4 quarters, week in and week out? Can they figure it out? Can they be cohesive? Can the communication be there? Can the play calling be there? Can the scheme be there week in and week out? If so, this can be an 11-win division winner that can make noise in the playoffs. And that's how I see this going. So hopefully they prove me right against the Bears, and hopefully we're moving forward. I'm starving after watching this video. Let me know in the comments below what you think, ladies and gentlemen, what you think about the gumbo, the fried chicken, the visuals, the team. Comments are wide open, so take it any way you want. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video.